I'm not happy that Andrew Berry is not speaking the rest of the week or certainly next week. He's not scheduled to speak right now. I already think it is a bad look. I think it's embarrassing. He didn't speak after the Joe Flacco trade. He didn't speak after the Greg Newsome trade. And the reality is we have come to expect Andrew to speak in moments like this. And there can be a myriad of reasons why that's happening. But I thought it was interesting when Mary Kay Cabot was on with the Midday Boys. She detailed why, just maybe, the Browns haven't sent Andrew Berry out there yet.
I think the thing that makes it weird is the fact that he's done it every single year since they have been here. The thing that doesn't make it weird is that most other GMs don't do it. When you look around the AFC North, most of those guys don't come out and speak at the bye week, and it's not a common thing that necessarily happens around the league. A lot of times, NFL teams will want their coach to be the spokesman for the football team during the season, and then the GM talks at other various points, pre-draft and in training camp and whatnot, combine and owners meetings. But during the season, a lot of teams want their coach to just be front and center and not have someone else out there talking. So they made their decision this year to do it this way, and I know they're getting pushback on it, and people are confused about it, and maybe they'll change it up again next year, but this is what they decided to do.
I'll be really surprised if they decided this back when Andrew Berry spoke in training camp. I'll be really surprised if this wasn't the turn of events that has happened over the last 8 weeks. And it is one thing to break precedents, which you yourself has set at any point. It's one thing to do it in this season.
Yeah.
And listen, you know me. Kevin Stefanski, I can take him or I can leave him, right? I think he's a good coach if you give him talent, which means he's not a great coach. I can build you a resume of a billion coaches in the NFL that if they have talent, they'll win. Hey, if you give them a franchise quarterback, yeah, you just described every coach in the NFL.
Right.
Anybody worth their salt should be able to win with a great quarterback or a great team. All right. I have criticisms of Kevin Stefanski, but the year that you conveniently decide to hide Andrew Berry from the media, it happens to be the year where they are 2-6 going into the bye, where, by the way, Kevin Stefanski is very clearly set up to be the fall guy, which I understand that might be the way it goes. But the fact that Andrew gets to shirk responsibility and answer for his moves, any of the bad moves he's made, but certainly the trades that he's made, and now at 2-6, conveniently he's nowhere to be found because, well, we just discovered the rest of the NFL doesn't do this. Bull crap. I do not believe you. You have no currency with me. You have no currency with the fans. All you're doing is further setting apart, okay, here's Kevin Stefanski, here's Andrew Berry, and you're setting one guy up to take every hit, every day, when, by the way, he's taken every hit for Deshaun Watson, a trade that he didn't progenate, although he did get on board for. He's taken every hit for the last damn 20 games, 25 games that this team has failed. This is disloyal. It is wrong. It is patently absurd that Andrew Berry and the Browns this year specifically at 2-6 have broken their own protocol that they've set. And that's how the NFL operates. But it's not how you've operated, and you can't hide behind that crap.
And it's the picking and choosing that I think fans have a right to be mad about here because, as you mentioned, like this year of all years are the years that he does. And I don't really care about other teams' precedents, but also we should note Eric DeCosta does speak a lot in Baltimore. And we also should point out Mike Tomlin speaks every single week. He spoke today, and Tomlin, more than Omar Khan, is the person constructing the Steelers roster. So, those GMs do speak. And yes, is it bothersome in certain instances? Like Lamar's got that whole situation, and maybe we'll touch on this a little bit later on. Lamar's got his whole situation about the injury report and everything else like that. Is it bothersome to Ravens fans that DeCosta's not out there right now speaking on behalf of that? I'm sure it is. Yes, I'm sure it is. But he speaks way more than most GMs. So I just don't know that you can use that as an excuse, but the picking and choosing for when you do it is what should bother Browns fans here.
What did Jimmy Haslam say at the NFL owner meetings in kudos to Kevin Stefanski with his little vote of confidence? It's not when things are good that you find out who your leaders are.
When they're bad.
It's when they're bad.
Yeah.
And so for Jimmy Haslam then the week later to okay Andrew not being out there, For Andrew Berry himself to be okay with not being out there speaks volume about the leadership. And there's really I've given you one of the logical conclusions from this. One of them is they're just going to continue to set Kevin up to be the patsy like this was all his fault, when if anything, Kevin's biggest crime is not pushing back on the dodo brain ideas that they've come through and botched time and time again. All right, so that's one. The other is Andrew's already cooked, and he's not really the GM, that they're making decisions by quorum, and it's just a matter of time before he gets back.
And he might be tired of defending decisions that he's not responsible for, too. Like,
Andrew?
Think about it. Well, yeah, from what you're suggesting right there, like if he's not actually making decisions right now, and he's got to do it for somebody else, then yeah, like that would bother the hell out of me, too.
Well, no, I'm talking about Kevin.
Oh,
I
you
was
said
talking
Andrew.
about Kevin. No, okay, good
We
God.
got confused there.
All right, well, let's try and retrace our
steps. Do you think Andrew's still making calls or not?
I don't know. But my point was Kevin being the guy twisting in the wind for decisions that he's gone along with and not pushed back on.
Okay, because we can still play with this here, though. Like if you don't know that Andrew's making these decisions and you think it's actually DePodesta or somebody else, you could see why Andrew then wouldn't want to sit up at the podium and be like, "Yeah, we made these decisions for X, Y, and Z." If he can't actually back them up.
Well, but I think those are the only two things. Either he's distancing himself from Kevin, and everything we've thought about the power dynamics between them changing is true, or he's already a dead man walking, and they're just not going to put him out there because you don't need to put a guy out there to defend decisions if he's not going to be here in 8 weeks.
Well, again, if I was a dead man walking and I knew I was a dead man walking, why am I taking that firing squad of a media storm that I'm going to have to try to maneuver through with decisions that I don't even really believe in?
Because Kevin Stefanski's also doing it.
I know, but if I was Andrew Berry, I'd be like, I guess that's your job now. That's what you do. It's not fair to Kevin Stefanski in any sort of way. In fact, if you're a leader, you'd stand up there and you'd take a couple bullets for him, and you might even do it more frequently if you knew both people were cooked. But clearly, Andrew Berry doesn't want to do that.
Whichever way it is, it's a bad look. Whichever way it is, it's another way of embarrassing. And honestly, here's the thing. It's insulting to Kevin Stefanski. It's insulting to fans in this town who pay their hard-earned money. I mean, how many... we don't, of course, we can't go over to the tailgate anymore downtown because Cleveland did away with that. Thank you, Mayor Bibb, protecting local businesses. But back when we would just be able to go do that, every time you'd see Browns fans line up, give up their Sundays, give up their hard-earned money to support this team in spite of the bird-brain decisions that do not work out for this organization. So the idea now that you've changed your own precedents in what happens to be an even more bleak season than the year before, where fans just want answers. Fans just want to hear from you.
They're forgetting the idea of the press conferences, Nick. The whole idea of press conferences is to be the conduit for the fan. You're ushering in what exactly the voice is, and then you're speaking to the fan base. The media is all there because, again, we're the conduit of all this, but like that's the idea, is it's the only time you're supposed to be able to really speak directly to the fan base, and not speaking to this fan base amid a 2-win season and a disaster, that is in and of itself the slap in the face.
And here's the thing. You've already slapped them in the face by taking away anything fans identified with, right? There was a large contingent of fans who identified with Baker, and you took that away because, well, you're going to identify when we're in the Super Bowl. And then you didn't follow through on the second half of that act. You hired guys who no one in this town identifies with. I shouldn't say no one, because there's people who want to be Ivy Leaguers, people who want analytics to be all everything's about. Yeah, this is still a blue-collar area. There's still a blue-collar region. And you hired people who stand up there, say nothing, stand for nothing other than themselves, other than the process, which are tantamount to not a damn thing. And then you can't even bother to send them out there and answer questions about their own failure. That, to me, is failure of leadership. And listen, it ain't fair. Football's not fair. Life isn't fair. But it's not right to Browns fans. And here's the other thing. It's not right to Kevin Stefanski. He deserves a little bit more than that, even if he's also a huge part of this failure.
Oh, and he's too classy of a guy to go ahead and speak up about this exact problem. He's not going to go ahead and bus toss Andrew Berry, but he probably should be thinking about whether or not this is making him be the best version of Kevin Stefanski to everyone else when he's the only person that has to be held culpable for all this stuff. But you got to face the music. If you're Andrew Berry, you got to face the music. That's the point.
216-474-0092. So no Andrew Berry, by the way. They're not going to talk this week because you don't matter.
Well, you still say yet, because we can bully him enough into the idea that they learn that they have to do these things, or they should do these things, and they should be speaking to the fans. So, like, I'm still holding out some hope that we can speak enough on this, and then by Thursday or Friday, he actually does take it to the podium. We've done it before. I've been at this station before where teams have said we are not speaking to the media. There's no plans of speaking to the media, and then whatever radio show it is does something like this, and then before you know it, they actually do end up speaking.
I just don't believe. They got what they wanted. They got the Brook Park barn-dominium, as Daryl called it. They're focused on that. They're not focused on fan relations. They don't care. They do not care, and that is as apparent as anything. And it's bad enough. It's bad enough to put that product on the field, but to then just completely ignore your fans when all they want is an answer for your failed use of the money that they give you. I got to tell you, that is beyond smug.
We won't even get the answer that we want, and we know that, but you still have to show up and you still have to deliver. Even if it's a non-answer, you still have to deliver it. You still have to at least give us an attempt here.